Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is. So you already did these notes in part 1, and so now we're going to continue on with part 2. So you have this worksheet. Remember, I'm checking this to see completion in Edpuzzle and on this to get full credit. So you need these notes done by 9/17 to get full credit. So we talked about the parabola. That was the U shape or smiley or frown, the shape that quadratic makes. We talked about the x-intercept, and it's when the y is 0, where are we on the x-axis? And so we showed with this graph that it's points right here where you cross the x-axis. When y is 0, you're on the x-axis, and they're points. So they're the points 1, 0, and 3, 0 are your x-intercepts. And on this graph, they're right here. And we talked about the y-intercept is where you cross the y-axis, so that's right here on the y-intercept when x is 0. And we talked about the vertex, which is where you are changing direction. So we're increasing, we hit the vertex, we're decreasing, or we're decreasing, we hit the vertex, now we're increasing. And so we're going to also talk about the axis of symmetry, which is the equation x equals whatever the x is at the vertex. And that's where you can fold your parabola in half on the axis of symmetry, and they will match up exactly the same. So we're going to continue with the notes. So we're going to go down. We talked about parabola, x-intercept, y-intercept, vertex, axis of symmetry kind of are connected. Let's go over here to the domain and the range. So you should remember this from Math 1, domain and range. And it's something that we use sometimes just to say, like, what are valid numbers? So the domain would be the set of all possible x values for an equation. And that's true for any kind of equation. It's not just, there's not just a domain in quadratics. It's for any kind of equation at all. So the domain is all x values for the equation, and specifically in parabolas. In parabolas, all x values are possible. So we have all x values are possible. So the way we write that in set notation would be from negative infinity is less than x, and x is less than infinity. And so it's like a sideways 8. So all that's saying is that if you look at your x-axis, that's here, from all the way, the arrow says it goes on forever, negative infinity is over here. So from all the way over here, this x is going to, this parabola will keep going down and down and down, and it's going to continue to spread out forever. So eventually it will be at negative infinity all the way forever. It'll keep going, and then it's also between negative infinity, any x between there, and the same thing to positive infinity. And so this parabola, as it's going down, will continue to go out towards the x's. It'll take a very long time to get to bigger numbers, but it will eventually get there. And so same thing for this parabola. This technically comes all the way up here, and it's going to keep going from negative infinity, smaller, bigger x's now, all the way to infinity. And so the domain are all the x values, and it's from negative infinity to positive infinity. And the range is the same idea, but those are the y values. So the range is the set of all possible y values for a function or for an equation. So we'll say, I put before for an equation, we'll do that same thing here. Equation, function, same idea. And so the range, however, is connected to your maximum and minimum, which we will talk about in a second. And so the range will change. So again, domain are all of your x's this direction, and the range are all of your y's this direction. And that has to do with your minimum and maximum, which we will talk about in a minute. So I'm just going to write here connected to the maximum and the minimum. And so I'm going to be using red as my next color for maximum and for the minimum. And so I'm going to actually circle them here and just draw arrows right there to give you reference. So the range has to do with the y values. So if you look at this graph, this is the highest point this graph will ever get on the y values. We will never go past 1 with this particular function. It goes up, so from negative infinity all the way down here, negative infinity, this goes way down, but it comes up, and once it hits 1 right here, it never goes higher because then it turns and is now decreasing again. So this here is going to be where our range starts, and then it'll go from here all the way down, and we will write that, but I want you to see where it is. And on this one, the range, we have all these positive y's, so now we're way up here in infinity land, and we come down, 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 but then we stop, we turn directions. We never get past this point, -4, then we go back up and we're increasing and going up. So our y values are stopping here. And so we don't have anything below -4 for this function. We won't get a y value there. It's not defined. So let's write the words minimum and maximum, and then we'll put our domain and range here. So minimum and maximum and minimum. So we have a maximum when we open down. So that means like this. And so remember, max means the most or the highest. So the maximum is the most or the highest point. And so we will have definitely a highest point with my picture, with this parabola. And so we're going to write the highest y value, or since we're talking about a graph, we can say the y coordinate. Highest y value, y coordinate of a parabola. And so this is how you find it. This is the y value in the vertex. That's like your cheat way of finding it. Not really a cheat way. It's connected to the vertex. And so I'm going to put vertex, I'm going to put a box in green around, or not green, orange around that, because that helps us. So if I look at the one that opens down, that was this one right here, there's my vertex. The maximum, the highest I'm ever going to get is right here at that vertex. So you can see this vertex is a really important point because its axis of symmetry is the x value and the y value is right here. So we're going to label this the maximum. And this point right here, this y value is +1. And so we would say that y equals 1. It's a line. And so for the maximum in our notes, we can put y equals, and what is that number? That's how we say it. Okay. And then the minimum is the same idea, but now it's going on the upwards. So here's my parabola. The minimum is the lowest point right there. And so we'll say this is the lowest y coordinate of a parabola. The lowest y value or y coordinate of a parabola. And again, this is the y value in the vertex. So we can put a box around that again. And so again, it has an equation that y equals, and it's some number. And so if I look at this graph here, this is going down and then it goes back up. So the lowest point is right here. So this line, this is the smallest or the lowest. And so this is your minimum. And in this case, it's y equals, and this is the point -4. So that's my minimum for this parabola. The lowest is going to go. And that's connected to my range, as well as the maximum. So let's write our range and our domain for both. And so I'm going to use the bottom here. So remember the domain, those are my x's. And so my domain goes from negative infinity all the way to infinity. And for every parabola, it's going to be the same. So negative infinity is less than x, which is less than positive infinity. All that's saying is x is bigger than negative infinity, but smaller than infinity. And the range, that's really sloppy writing, sorry. The range here is the y values. So remember y values. And in this case, the highest we get is up here at 1, and that's everything less than that. So we just say y is less than or equal to, because it equals 1 right here. So y is less than or equal to negative 1. So the range is from negative 1 down, so my y values are less than or equal to negative 1. And the domain is from all the way negative infinity all the way to positive infinity. And then on this one, you should try it first. What's my domain? All parabolas are the same for the domain. Negative infinity is less than x, which is less than positive infinity. And then your range, again, your y values. In this case, y is here. So I always go like y, and this is negative 4. And then what y's work? Well, it's everything that's bigger or above negative 4. So that means y is bigger than or equal to negative 4. So that's your range. That's your domain. And then over here, here's your domain, just so that it stands out a little bit more. Okay, so we're going to be practicing that a lot this year. And so the last thing we have to do is the dilation. And the dilation, if you think about your eyes, like your eyes dilate, they get bigger or they get smaller depending on how much light is being shown into your eyes. So dilation is just talking about the, and I like these words, the fatness or the skinniest of a parabola. Or in other words, it's like how much is it open. And so if you look at a parabola, we can have a parabola that's open upward, be like this, and this is like the regular one. It could be super, like if the same vertex goes super, super up quick, so be skinnier, or it could go way slow, take its time. And so it's skinnier, skinniest, so skinniest, skinnier, and then this is like really wide. Or you could have the same thing, you have a really slow increasing and slow decreasing parabola that goes down. Or it can come up a little bit faster and go down faster. Or it can come up super fast, hit the point, and come down super fast. So it just depends on what the dilation is. So it's the skinniest or fattest of a parabola. And we'll see how that connects to equations. So this page is done. I can't zoom out, show you the whole thing, but I can show you. There's the vocabulary that you should have. Those colors are very helpful. And then here's your graphs. And so beautiful thing about videos is you can pause this so you can see everything, make sure you have it all correct. And so I'm going to flip the page and just give you a heads up that you will have a vocabulary quiz very soon. Can't tell you exactly when, but I can tell you it's going to be very soon. And there is a Quizlet to use to study. So there's a Quizlet to use to study. And I will have that in Google Classroom. See Google Classroom. All right. That's been about 15 minutes. Hopefully you have this vocabulary done. Warning, vocab test coming soon. Quizlet will help you study. All right. Have a great rest of your morning, day, or night. Get some sleep if this is late at night. Goodbye.